philosophy is pretty simple. It's to mix art and philosophy together, to mix art and regionalism, to use the foods of the local area and to mix them in a surprising and sometimes astonishing manner to trigger off as many of the senses to overlay one another as I can. It's certainly not traditional cooking, I admit that, but it's fun. It's the way I think artists like to cook, with that element of the unknown and surprise.
Hi, I'm Jim Munich. Welcome to the Herb Cottage. That was John Braun sharing his edible flower cooking philosophy with you. We'll get back to John a little later in the show. But right now, I'd like to take you on a coast-to-coast adventure, learning from the experts how to cook with garden flowers and culinary herbs. It's a lot of ground to cover, so let's get started. Our first stop is Vancouver Island, British Columbia. Here on the shores of this wilderness paradise is a best-in-Canada restaurant, the Sooke Harbour House. Our host, Dr. Sinclair Phillip, and his wife, Frederica, specialize in edible flower cuisine. The Harbour House gardens contain over 100 different edible flower species. Frederica and gardener Byron Cook will identify some edible flowers and flower dishes.
Hello, I'm Byron Cook. Let's take a walk through the gardens at Sooke Harbour House, and I'll show you some edible flowers. This is a Malva machata, common name muskmallow. It has an edible flower which is quite sweet. It's a white form and a pink form. Chive blossoms, along with many of the alliums, are edible, and I would suggest that you let a few plants go to flower in your garden and use them instead of using the chive leaves. Another edible flower that has been used for a long time is borage, which has a slight cucumber flavor.
A very delicate dish, gravlax, with a lemon garlic dressing, and it has all the garlic, chives, cucumber, and borage flowers.
Chive blossoms, I would suggest that you let a few plants go to flower in your garden and use them instead of using the chive leaves. Calendula officinalis is one of the oldest edible flowers, and from its name you can tell it's been used for medicinal purposes also. The leaves are sometimes used in salads. The pansies in this picture are some that have just, for the most part, self-seeded here, except the black ones. They're all edible, and Frederica has a beautiful plate to show you.
So we have here buttermilk waffles with two different sauces, strawberry rhubarb and apricot and blueberries, and they are garnished with pansies, little Johnny jump-ups, and daylilies.
Prince Rupert is a variegated, lemon-scented geranium that is quite hardy and would survive a mild winter here. This is another pelargonium, which is not scented, and we have a sorbet with this as a decoration.
Very nice sorbet. It's a sumac ridge, Gewürztraminer, loganberry, and scented geranium sorbet, and with very vivid colors.
This is one of the several types of lavenders that we have. They seem to grow especially well here on the seashore. This is one of the earlier blooming ones that's just about finished.
We have here a plum custard flan. It also has a nice lavender ice cream.
Excuse me, but all this good food is making me hungry. How about you? Let's take a break and make some lavender ice cream. First, scald a cup and a half of cream with a cup and a half of milk. Enter 2 tablespoons of vanilla. Next, beat 7 egg yolks with a 1/3 cup of honey. Simmer over water till the blend thickens. Now combine the cream with the eggs and cook until the blend coats a spoon. Stir in a heaping tablespoon of lavender blossoms. Then, after the blend has cooled in the refrigerator, strain it into an ice cream maker. Follow manufacturer's recommendations for mixing, and voila, lavender ice cream decorated with scented geraniums. This'll keep your guests buzzing. Now, back to the garden with Dr. Sinclair and his favorite edible flowers.
While Byron's over here planting leeks, I'd like to show you what I consider to be some of the very best edible flowers there are used in North America today, as well as in many other countries. In front of us here, we have the shangiku, sometimes called garland chrysanthemum or Japanese chrysanthemum. With this particular plant, it's the leaf which is the most desirable part, and you want to keep them cut back generally so that the small leaves remain tender and are good both for salads and for cooking. The flower petals also are edible, and generally speaking, in Oriental countries, they prefer the yellow flower over the whitish colored flower. Tuberous begonias are probably one of the most outstanding of the edible flowers, and other than their fleshy, lemony flavor, which is excellent and makes a nice contrast to rich foods, the color of these flowers imparts a very beautiful color into sauces.
We have here a dish of gooseneck barnacles with tuberous begonia vinaigrette, and the tuberous begonia gives the nice color to the sauce and also a very nice lemony flavor.
Jim, this is a yucca, and it's principally used as an edible flower in Mexico and in Latin American countries. It produces a fruit. Generally speaking, in this northern climate, it doesn't produce much of a fruit, but we use the flowers more than anything else for their texture and their color, and they're particularly nice in omelets. Jim, these are daylilies. They are one of the prime edible flowers used very much in China and Japan and grown as a large commercial crop. They are very, very nice in stews. The dried buds are used in quite a wide variety of dishes, from soups to stews to omelets. The petals themselves are edible and excellent in salads. They're very nice cooked. They withstand marination. A word of warning about lilies and daylilies in general: be absolutely sure that you're talking about Hemerocallis or Lilium species, because there are a number of plants that are called lilies which in fact are not and can be quite poisonous. All roses are edible, and roses, probably more than any one flower, have been used for cooking for thousands of years. In England they were extremely popular for a long period of time. People made vinegars, they made chutneys, they made oils, a variety of different desserts, biscuits, any number of different things with roses. There have been entire books written on just cooking with roses and nothing else. All nasturtiums are edible, and all parts of the nasturtium are edible: leaf, flower, and seed pod. The leaves are very nice in salads. The flowers make beautiful vinegars and color the vinegars of similar color to the color of the flower. The pods are a very good caper substitute when pickled and are often used dried as a pepper substitute. Nasturtiums are also quite nice cooked. We tend to use the flowers more than any other part, cooked with fish dishes folded in at the very last minute before serving. It adds a strong peppery flavor. This is sweet woodruff, which is traditionally used in Europe and particularly in Germany for May wine. It's also a nice edible flower in that it has a very vanilla-like flavor during part of the season. This is also an excellent herb that grows well in the shade. Dianthus flowers are all edible. Probably the prime edible of the dianthus flowers is the clove pink. This has a very clove-like flavor, but more importantly, when we're looking at this particular dianthus, you will notice that the flower petals are extremely beautiful for decorative purposes, whether it be for desserts around a plate or on a salad. More than anything else, we use our flowers here for decorative purposes on desserts and main courses.
we're going to move away from the Sooke Harbour House for a while, but remember these and other Harbour House recipes are detailed in the brochure that accompanies this video. Now let's head for the mountains of Gold Hill, Colorado, where master herbalist Deborah Nuzzi will capture the essence, color, and flavor of flowers in berry sauces, vinegars, alcohol, and oil.
So now let's take a look at some of our wild mountain flowers. We'll be making some delicious preparations of wild mint, wild raspberries, choke cherries, and wild mountain bergamot. Now this is a berry sauce or soup that we're preparing from fresh raspberries and choke cherries. You can use it also as a sauce to pour over ice cream. It's delicious. Put 1 cup each of the raspberries and choke cherries into the pan. And then mash them all together with a potato masher. After the berries are mashed, add 1/2 cup of water. Stir. Bring to a boil and then immediately take it away from the stove so that you don't overcook the berries. Now you can add some peppermint flowers, which will give it a mild peppermint flavor. 2 or 3 sprigs of the peppermint leaf and flower should be enough to flavor the berry soup. Now pour the sauce through a strainer so that you can strain out the large choke cherry seeds. You're going to have to push down a little bit to make it go through the strainer, and then it will drip out the bottom. Now add in the 1/4 cup honey. Then you can drizzle it over ice cream and top with a sprig of flowering mint. Your final product can also be a raspberry tuile, like this one, made by Chef Eric Burson of the Lickskillet Cafe in Gold Hill, Colorado. Here we're going to make a spicy vinegar with bergamot flowers. Bergamot is known as oswego tea or bee balm, and it's also wild oregano, so you're going to have that oregano flavor in the vinegar. Simply snip the flowers and fill the jar. Now fill the jar with vinegar to the top. We're using raw apple cider vinegar here. Snap on the lid and leave for 2 weeks. You can use this as a base for salad dressings combined with olive oil. The wild mountain peppermint makes a wonderfully strong essence for flavoring foods. A large quantity of the volatile oils are stored in the flower itself, so this makes an exquisite essence. Simply take some of the leaves, crush them in a mortar and pestle. Make sure you work them down really well so that you break the cellular structure of the leaf wall. This releases the volatile oils. And then place them, after you've pulverized them, into a jar, a small jar, and fill to the top with 190 proof grain alcohol, or vodka if you have no other choice. But the stronger the alcohol content, 190 proof is 95% alcohol, the better the essence that you get. Then what you want to do is treat this like a tincture. You cover it and shake it daily for 14 days, and then you have your peppermint essence. To make an oil out of the wild mountain mint, gather the flowers and leaves and again pulverize them in a mortar and pestle to break down the leaf structure. After you break them up pretty well, then stuff them into the jar. Small jar, like so. Now pour over a bland vegetable oil, such as almond oil. Fill it not quite to the top. The reason you don't fill it to the top is because what we're going to do next is put a cheesecloth over the top. And if you fill the oil too close to the top, it will start wicking out this cheesecloth and dripping on whatever you have below it. So it's also good to let it sit in a saucer. What you're going to do, since you've used the fresh flowers, is you're going to leave the cheesecloth on it so that any water can evaporate out of the oil while you're processing it. After the peppermint has steeped in the oil for 2 weeks, go ahead and strain it off and store it in your kitchen. Be creative with it. Use it for sautéing spring peas. Use it in lamb chutney. Make a delicious peppermint salad dressing out of it. I use it also as a flavoring for medicinal cough lozenges and or syrups. You can find out about those kinds of preparations in my video, Herbal Preparations and Natural Therapies.
Information on this program, as well as garden flower cookbooks and edible flower seed companies, is contained in the video resource directory at the end of this tape.
Hi, I'm Jill Munich. Here's a few other ways to capture the flavor and fragrance of fresh flowers. Make lavender butter. Simply stir in fresh or dried lavender blossoms. Try nasturtiums and clove pinks in butter. Rose petals, lavender blossoms, and scented geraniums may be stirred into honey. Use the infusion on toast, tea, and lemonade. Stir calendula, chives, and tulip petals into mayonnaise. Rose water's been used in cooking for hundreds of years. You may buy it in a drugstore or you may make your own. Here's how. First, you need about $10 worth of supplies. 6 feet of 1/4 inch copper tube bent into a coil to form a condenser, and a Pyrex flask with a rubber stopper. Add your most fragrant rose petals to the flask and cover with water. Damask, rugosa, and Gallica roses are a good choice. Bring the water to a gentle boil. A fan cools the coil. The end product is clear, rose-scented, rose-flavored water. Later, we will show you several ways to use the rose water. Here's an easy way to candy flowers. First, make certain the roses are dry. Next, mix 1 egg white with a teaspoonful of high-proof alcohol or vodka. Then paint the petal with a thin veneer of egg white. Sprinkle a single layer of sugar granules over the flower. Let the flower dry on a plate covered with a thin layer of sugar. Here's some more valuable tips. The best time to pick edible flowers is in the morning after the dew has evaporated and in the evening when the garden has cooled. Make certain they are clean and free of insects. Flowers may be stored and preserved for a few days in the refrigerator. Pick flowers by the stem, wrap the stem in a moist towel, and box them in an airtight plastic container.
I'd like to cut in here now with a warning. Remember, many plants are poisonous. If a plant is on any poisonous list, don't eat it. Before eating any safe edible flower, identify it by both its common and Latin name. Finally, if you have guests with allergies, remove reproductive parts of the plants, especially pollen. Simply pluck out the parts and wash the pollen away. Okay, let's visit Britt McCulloch's Herb Cottage for some very simple recipes for the host on the run.
Hi, I'm Britt McCulloch. Here's 4 or 5 quick, can't-miss recipes that can be ready in 15 minutes. Our first is a nasturtium pizza. First, you sprinkle on Parmesan cheese. Next, the chopped nasturtium petals. What could be easier and more elegant to serve to your guests? Next, stuffed nasturtiums. The filling is softened cream cheese, blended to taste with parsley, chives, rosemary, and thyme. Isn't that simple? Another easy appetizer is lavender and beef rounds. Spread lavender butter on rye rounds. Next, place roast beef slices and sprinkle with lavender. Surprisingly delicious. For my finale, stuffed pasta shells. For 1 cup of filling, process a clove of garlic with equal parts of cottage and cream cheese. Add a few drops of garlic juice to soften and add 1 teaspoon each of fresh thyme and oregano. Garnish with chive blossoms. There you have it, a 15-minute hors d'oeuvre tray when you don't have time to mess around.
By late spring, the mustard flowers are in bloom in many places around North America. With mustard flowers as the centerpiece entree, I'd like to develop a 4-course menu for you. The salad is fresh from the garden: spinach, Bibb lettuce, broccoli, pansies, nasturtiums, borage flowers, pineapple sage blossoms, roquette, and chopped calendula petals. For our vegetable dish, summer squash steamed till tender, then covered with thyme blossoms. The entree is ocean or bay scallops with white wine and mustard flower sauce. To duplicate this recipe, first, heat 1.5 cups of milk with 2 tablespoons of mustard flowers until warm. Then set aside to steep. Now, gently poach the scallops in olive oil with a clove of garlic, a couple fresh sprigs of dill, and 1/2 cup of dry white wine. Next, strain the poaching liquid from the scallops into the milk and mustard flour blend. For a thickener, add a couple tablespoons of flour that may be blended with a tablespoon of butter. Cook gently, stirring continuously to make a creamy sauce. Season with salt, pepper, and nutmeg to taste. Place scallops in their warm shells, then pour over the hot sauce. This is a delicious recipe. Try it with salmon, oysters, or halibut. For dessert, let's try the Sooke Harbour House Loganberry Scented Geranium Sorbet. If you can't get loganberries, use raspberries, blackberries, cherries, or peaches. Mix 6 cups of loganberries or other fruit with 1/2 cup of Gewürztraminer white wine and a cup of coarsely chopped scented geranium leaves and or flowers. Bring to a boil at high heat. Then remove from the heat, cover, and steep till cool. When cool, puree the berry sauce using the steel attachment of a Cuisinart. Strain the berry sauce, then add 1/2 cup of honey. Freeze in the ice cream maker to manufacturer's recommendations. Our next trip is to Fox Hill Farms in Parma, Michigan. Fox Hill is renowned for its fresh herb products, topiaries, herb blends, vinegars, oils, and designer foods. The farm itself has numerous gardens with over 500 varieties of flowers and herbs. There are flowers everywhere, a basil maze, and several classic herb gardens. Proprietor Marilyn Hampstead has pulled together for us several exciting recipes using fresh flowers and herbs.
Hi, I'm Marilyn Hampstead. The first thing I'd like to prepare for you during your visit to Fox Hill Farm is our Rosy Citra tart. The ingredients come from all over the world. Rose-scented geraniums, native to South Africa. The very tart Calamandran oranges from Babylon. The roses which flavor the dish come from Persia. And the crust is a very fine Austrian pastry. The dairy products are from England. First, to make the pastry in your food processor, put in 1 3/8 cup of flour, 1/4 teaspoon salt, and 1/4 cup of sugar. Process that for about 5 seconds. Then add about 1/2 cup of cold butter. It's important that the butter be real cold. Pulse that quickly about 10 times. Then add 1 very cold egg and about 2 sprigs of lemon basil flowers. Process again until it forms a ball, which will take about 10 seconds. Wrap the ball in saran wrap and stick it in the refrigerator for about an hour to chill. When it's chilled, proceed to roll it out so that it fits into a fluted 2-part tart pan. We've lined the bottom of the pan with Dr. Livingstone rose geranium leaves. The scented geranium leaves impart a rose fragrance to the pastry crust. Fit the crust into the top of the pan atop the rose geranium leaves. Remember, keep the crust cold so the butter content doesn't get too sticky to work with. Then bake for approximately 12 minutes at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. For the pastry filling, combine about a half a pound of cream cheese and about a half a cup of sour cream. Once that's creamed, we're going to add an infusion of rose petals in about 2 ounces of dry cocktail sherry. This infusion should set for at least 4 days so that the rose flavor is picked up by the sherry. The scented and flavored sherry becomes a seasoning agent for the cream filling. That cream nestles on top of the pastry and supports the rose-flavored marmalade that completes our Rosy Citra tart. To make the marmalade, slice 2 oranges, a tart calamandrin orange and a regular juice orange. Combine the oranges in the bottom of a heavy pan with about a ½ inch of water. Then add a ½ cup of sugar. Cook this over medium heat until the citrus is almost clear, about an hour. Near the end of the cooking time, take the petals from 4 red roses and stir them in the marmalade. Let the marmalade cool, then you are ready to spread it over the tart. Fork on the cold marmalade. Spread it thin. See how pretty the rose petals look in that marmalade? Don't forget the Dr. Livingstone rose geranium leaves on the bottom of the crust. You may remove them if you wish. I'll plant a little rose right in the middle. There it is, your Rosy Citra tart. Next, our dreamy dessert creation, rosy clouds in a dark storm. First, to make the dark clouds, melt a ½ pound of top-quality bittersweet chocolate with about a teaspoon of shortening. Then, stir in about a cup of Rice Krispies. Next, spoon the chocolate and Rice Krispies mixture into a non-stick mini muffin mold pan. Then form the chocolate up the sides of the mold to make your dark storm cups. Now, separate the petals from 5 fragrant pink or red miniature roses. Please make certain the roses and all the flowers you eat are organically grown, no toxic pesticides or herbicides. After the rose cream has infused for 24 hours, beat it stiff. Put a dollop of the rose-scented whipped cream into each dark storm cloud cup. Garnish with a crystallized rose petal, and that's it. Rosy clouds in a dark storm. Nothing tastes better than herbs fresh from your garden. Here's one of my favorite recipes, Old Goat and the Kids. What makes the flavor of the shish kebab so unique is the use of English lavender flowers in the marinade. Place a pound of game lamb or old goat with 1 pound of 1-inch cubed firm vegetables into a plastic bag. Snip in about 6 sprigs of English lavender blossoms, stem and all. Add about 2 tablespoons of rosemary blossoms, about 12 sprigs, about 10 sprigs of oregano, and an equal amount of lemon thyme flowers. Finally, about 2 sprigs of Basil Genovese flowers. Then add about a cup of basil vinegar, 1 bay leaf, and a tablespoon of cracked black pepper. Marinate the old goat and kids for at least 24 hours. 2 or 3 days is better. Here's a novel takeoff on Fox Hill's favorite dish, pesto. Today, we'll make it with Basil Genovese instead of with the more traditional sweet basil. We'll need about 2 tablespoons of pine nuts, 1 clove of elephant garlic, or 3 or 4 cloves of silver skin garlic, the more the better, about 3 cups of Basil Genovese leaves and its flowers, 3/4 of a cup of Parmesan cheese, and about 3/4 of a cup of nice fruity olive oil. The most important ingredient in our basil is the basil genovese. You will notice that with the basil genovese, the flowers are purple instead of white, and the leaves, instead of being solid green, are a mottled green and purple. First, into our food processor, we'll put in our pine nuts and the garlic, and process that briefly for about 5 seconds until it's nicely coarsely chopped. Then add the basil flowers and process again briefly. You don't want to chop the flowers too fine. Next, add the leaves of the basil and process briefly about 5 seconds to a coarse chop. Then slowly add some olive oil to make it grate even better. Add the rest of the olive oil, and then finally about 3/4 of a cup of Parmesan cheese. Process some more, and then check for consistency. If your pesto tends to be a little bit thick, add a little bit more olive oil to thin it to a nice pouring consistency. If the pesto is too thin, add a little bit more basil and some more Parmesan cheese. Don't over-process your pesto for the best flavor. Now your sauce is completed. Pour it on top of about a pound of pasta that's been cooked al dente and is still hot. Toss your novel pesto and serve. Your guests will be surprised at the different color and the sweeter flavor of novel pesto made with basil genovese. Salads are never dull here at Fox Hill Farm. We run up and down the greenhouses and through the gardens and pick whatever appeals and of course is in season. There's marigolds, a few nasturtiums. Remove the calyxes if you'd like. It makes it a little easier to eat. Here are some mint flowers, a few oriental garlic chives blossoms, and garlic chives, oh so very pretty. You can tell what's in bloom this time of the year because it's all ending up in the salad bowl. A riot of color, texture, and flavor. Nothing dull about this salad, and it's very easy to make. Nothing can go wrong provided the flowers and greens you put in your salad bowl are edible. Since this salad is highly flavored, you don't want to kill it with a heavy salad dressing. Simplicity is the key. Try a shot of extra virgin olive oil and a shot of tarragon vinegar with a chaser of garlic and a little bit of fresh ground black pepper. Toss and that's it. Eat it up. Now, here's a flavorful, flour-filled dip that's very easy to make. Just take some sour cream and some yogurt, equal parts, or just plain sour cream, or just plain yogurt. Then, have some fun. Today I'm using peppery nasturtiums, about 2 flowers and a couple of leaves. Notice my pruning shears go right into the kitchen. Just sterilize them on a hot stove. Okay, now some chervil. I'm using a tablespoon of chervil flowers and some regular chives. The chives blossoms have a wonderful lavender color and a sweet flavor, about 10 of those. Then about a half a clove of elephant garlic, chopped fine. Mix it all together. Make this dip a day or 2 before the big event. Let the flavor develop and become full-bodied. And it's just wonderful. Before serving, add 1 or 2 ounces of caviar, more or less. Stir. Here's the dip, ready to eat.
Thanks, Marilyn, for demonstrating your delicious assortment of treats. You may want to try Marilyn's caviar dip on tulips. The petals of tulips have a cucumber-like taste. During the Great Potato Famine in Europe, the Dutch subsisted almost exclusively on tulip bulbs and tulip petals. In the spring, try tulip petals dipped in a blend of 1/3 cup mayonnaise and 1/3 cup sour cream. Stir in a tablespoon of chopped dill leaves and 2 tablespoons of chive blossoms. Give the dip some time to mature, then help yourself. Crunchy, cucumber-like. Great. Let's try something else. Now for a quick trip down the Great Falls of the Potomac to Washington, D.C., where Charlie Coyner's Rock Garden packages fresh herbs and edible flowers for restaurants and supermarkets. The Rock Garden has farms in Virginia, Florida, and Central America. So fresh herbs are available year-round. If you live on the East Coast, you have probably eaten Rock Garden herbs. Near Berryville, Virginia, on Charlie's first farm, you may purchase herbs, seeds, edible flowers, and many other interesting products produced from herbs and flowers. The Rock Garden keeps Nora's restaurant in Washington, D.C. supplied with fresh herbs year-round. I'd like to demonstrate 2 fresh herb starters that Nora's restaurant is famous for. Grilled asparagus with goat cheese and roasted peppers, delicately laced with rosemary aioli, a wonderful rosemary mayonnaise. The supporting cast includes a salmon with mint dressing and fresh cucumbers marinated in rice wine vinegar. First, the asparagus dish. To make the rosemary aioli, or the rosemary mayonnaise, beat 2 egg yolks with about an 1/8 cup of fresh lemon juice. Add a tablespoon of chopped garlic and a pinch of saffron. The reproductive parts of the saffron crocus, Crocus sativus, imparts a unique flavor to the aioli. You may substitute 8 or 10 calendula petals for the saffron if you wish. To emulsify the aioli, slowly pour in olive oil, about 3 or 4 tablespoons until you achieve the consistency of mayonnaise. Turn the machine off and add your rosemary. Salt and pepper to taste. And here's your rosemary aioli. Next, steam the asparagus. Then score the asparagus on the grill. Finally, grill your peppers. And there you have it, asparagus and aioli with goat cheese and grilled pepper. Next, the salmon. You may use fresh poached salmon or smoked salmon. Marinate the salmon in mint dressing. To make the mint dressing, blend 2 egg yolks with a couple tablespoons of fresh lemon juice. Add 2 tablespoons of chopped shallots and 3 tablespoons of olive oil. Salt and pepper to taste. Now add 2 tablespoons of chopped mint leaves and flowers if they're available. And here's your mint marinade. Next, marinate the cucumbers in 2 tablespoons of rice vinegar. Add about a tablespoon of chopped dill and a pinch of coarse black pepper. Salmon and mint marinade with cucumbers in rice vinegar. Now, here are some more herb and flower ideas from Rock Garden hostess Susan Davis.
I'm going to make some walnut and sage pate. The main ingredient is 16 ounces of softened cream cheese. Then we combine these 4 ingredients into the cream cheese. 4 cloves of garlic, a half a teaspoon of salt and pepper, and some sage, approximately 2 tablespoons chopped. And finally, some olive oil, 4 tablespoons. Blend the garlic, salt and pepper, sage, and oil. And mix until thoroughly blended. Pour in the walnuts which you previously have baked and chopped. Mix. And some baked sesame seeds. We need to moisten the mixture by adding milk. And stir. Serves 8 to 12. Serve with your favorite edible flower. I like nasturtiums. How about a nice mint cooler salad? Ball 1 melon. Slice a cucumber and 2 tomatoes. Combine the melon, tomato, and cucumber in a bowl. Finely chop 1/2 cup of mint. Then stir the mint into the yogurt. Pour yogurt over the salad. Dress with pansies, mint blossoms, rose petals, or pineapple sage flowers. Fresh rock garden herbs are great for homemade recipes. Here's a simple one, tarragon mayonnaise. Blend 2 tablespoons of ground tarragon into a cup of mayonnaise and stir. It's that simple.
Tarragon mayonnaise is wonderful when applied to squid filled with calendula blossom bread stuffing. First, you must separate the squid from its tentacles and entrails. Also this clear plastic-like endoskeleton. Remove the thin veil-like skin, then wash the squid and tentacles thoroughly. Chop the tentacles and set them aside. Now saute 1 small chopped onion in olive oil. Add 1 or 2 cloves of chopped garlic and a cup of drained tomatoes. Enter a 1/2 cup of chopped olives, ripe black olives or green olives. If you use green olives, rinse the brine off them. Stir in the chopped tentacles. Then simmer until almost dry. Then mix in about 2 tablespoons of chopped calendula petals. Also add 4 or 5 chopped nasturtium pods for extra punch. Pickled pods preferably. If you don't have pods, chop in 1/4 cup of nasturtium petals without sepals. Finally, blend in a cup of breadcrumbs. My 9-year-old Rebecca loves the squid stuffing job.
Now stuff the squid with the filling.
And this is the easy way to stuff a squid.
Cover the squid with wine and tomato sauce.
Bake for 20 minutes at 375 degrees.
If you like squid, you'll love this dish.
Now it's about time we got back to the Whidbey Island Fish Market and discovered what John Brown was doing with those squash blossoms at the beginning of the show. The Whidbey Island Fish Market and Restaurant is owned and operated by Tom and Janet Gunn. Every month, Tom and Janet feature a guest cook at the restaurant. Today, it's John Brown, artist and naturalist, preparing squash blossoms stuffed with seafood, wildflowers, berries, herbs, and cheese.
I made a series of squash blossoms stuffed with herbs, with flowers, with seeds, with berries, and cheeses of various kinds. I mix them in much the same way that I garden. I have an eye for the textural relationships, certainly the color relationships, and how they smell to me. And I mix odor with texture, with taste, and I oftentimes get bitterness as part of the taste. Usually, though, I adjust that with something that's even a little stronger. It's essentially an aesthetic experience, and if I happen to get a combination that's not too good, well, the fun is to try again and get one that works a little better. But the element of surprise is important in everything, in my estimation, whether it's a garden or daily activities or the cuisine that we prepare and eat.
That's good advice for the intrepid edible flower gourmet. Let's discover what's in these blossoms. Here's a stuffing of fig, pine nuts, Mexican tarragon, mallow flowers, thyme blossoms, cheddar cheese, and goat cheese. This batch contains borage blossoms, cranberries, Mexican tarragon, pine nuts, and chive blossoms, also chopped mussels. Over here are scallops, oregano, malva flowers, cranberries, and anise hyssop blossoms. And here's parsley, thyme, bronze fennel, sweet cecily flowers and leaves, salal berries, and chopped crab. Be certain to saute the fish and shellfish before stuffing. The stuffed blossom is lightly cooked. When the cheese is melted, it's time to eat. Well, time's running out, but there's still much to cover. First, let's take a quiz. I'm going to show you a few of the edible flowers we've covered in the tape and see how many you can identify. Okay, let's see how you did. Number 1 was borage, Borago officinalis. 2 was lavender, Lavandula angustifolia. Next was calendula, or pot marigold, Calendula officinalis, followed by nasturtium, Tropalum majus, and daylilies, Hemerocallis fulva. Certainly you got this one right, roses of genus Rosa, and squash blossoms of genus Cucurbita. Then pansies, Viola tricolor, followed by chive blossoms of the genus Allium. Finally, the scented geraniums, pelargoniums, of which there are over 50 varieties that have culinary utility. There are many more edible garden flowers we haven't time to cover. Here's just a few. The Johnson's Blue pelargonium, a crane's bill geranium, is excellent with dessert dishes. And the flower of the painted lady runner beans and scarlet runner beans taste excellent just like the bean. Add them to salads, soups, and vegetable dishes. The florets of cornflowers or bachelor buttons make an attractive decoration around a dish. To learn more about edible flowers and edible flower recipes, check out our free internet health magazine at herbvideos.com. Be certain to make herbvideos.com your favorite place for lifestyle and health information.